Representative Thayer,
Present.
Representative Worf,
Here.
Chairman Byron.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Welcome again. Please silence your phones. As we always say, be nice or leave, be kind, please work through the chair. We're going to try to get to 3 different joint resolution, 2 different Senate files, but previous to doing that, we're going to quickly, I'm going to give a little privilege to my good friend Bob Budd, and he's got some folks he wants to introduce. Committee, we are the home to things, which is a foreign thought before we get to the interim, but we are the home to a subcommittee, which is actually called the Large Project Funding Committee of the WWNRT, the Wyoming Wildlife Natural Resource Trust Fund, of which Representative Provenza and I both serve on. Please make sure you've gotten your interim committee Survey Monkey done, because there's a lot of great work that gets done during that time. So with that, I'll invite my friend Bob Budd up, and then we'll get on to Senate Joint Resolution 3.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for the privilege. I thought that this is our home committee, and half of you are new to that, so I just wanted to take an opportunity to introduce my board. We're the leanest agency in government. We have a 9-member board that actually is a working board, and the entire staff of the WWNRT is here as well, myself and Hillary Wasserberger, who is our grants manager. So we have a meeting every year down here where we listen to our partners. We've done over 1,200 projects in the state. We're approaching $1 billion in money that's been laid out to do conservation work around the state. And so we spend this day listening to our partners, of which we have over 140 different entities that we've worked with. But it's my privilege to introduce my board, which is a phenomenal group of people. Our chairman is Steve Meadows. Steve is from Jackson. He's been on the board since its inception 20 years ago. Our vice chair is Pidge Fulton from Powell. Pidge is a farmer up in the Bighorn Basin. And then Jacqueline Downey is our representative from the northeast corner of the state. I wanted you to have an opportunity to see who these folks are. They actually get out and do the site visits and do the work that probably most granting entities would hire people to do. So it's our honor to be here, and just wanted to say hello and thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Budd. And yeah, committee, I would encourage you to pay attention to that when we do our field trip for WWNRT and our day meet, well, usually a 2-day meeting, 1 day of field trip across the state to, if it's in your district or it's close, make the effort to come for the day. And certainly plugging myself, I hope I get named back to that. But at this point, it's an unknown, but man, it's just great work they've done in all of our communities, and encourage your Senate counterparts and encourage your reps from your area and even your citizens. I mean, this is just really good money that's getting onto the ground with a lot of leverage and just doing really good work for the state. So thank you, Mr. Budd. Representative Harshman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a question. Well, I appreciate you all being here. We're at in the Northeast? Okay, Sundance or?
In between Sundance, Marcroft, and Hewlett, just right in between the 3 of
Oh,
them.
you got the
By Keyhole State Park.
Tri-Cities
Yeah.
working there. Okay. Just a quick question to the chairman. I appreciate all your service. And what's the trust at now? We were over 200 million a couple of years ago. We reached that goal that was set by our forebears in the 70s, I think, when they first started talking about this. But how's the trust today?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Harshman, we're just a little over 200 million. The board actually allocated money when we had earnings and added to the 200 that the legislature reached. It took us 18 years to get there, but we did get to the 200. And as an aside, there is a bill working its way through the system that will create an endowment model for the trust that will put a 4% spending policy, and then any excess would revert back into the corpus of the trust, so that we're hoping to inflation proof it and move it forward into when we're all gone and it's still doing that work. But right now we're, I think, 205 ballpark.
Yeah, great. And that's a Senate file that moving across?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Harshman, it is, yes.
Yeah, and I think it'd be a great test case because we're kind of on the trust model. The rest of our permit, but we want to move to this, we think, an endowment type model. So that's great. And then last question, Mr. Chairman, just How much have you, so that kicks off 10 million a year or so in earnings, 8 million. How much are you leveraging then with that? This kind of total projects?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Harshman, right now, we're at just a little over 5 to 1. So for every dollar that we spend out of the trust, we're
Wow.
getting 5 coming in from other sources. And it's important to note that those other sources are, a lot of people think it's just government money on government money. It's not. There is a tremendous amount of NGO money, non-governmental organization, Trout Unlimited, Ducks Unlimited, Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, Nature Conservancy, all of those entities, as well as private landowners who contribute. So it's pretty impressive. The highest we were ever on that was about 6.5 to 1. We're now still right at 5 to 1.
Great, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Co-Chair Harshman, and thank you for your service. Mr. Meadows, it's that 20 years, that's impressive. Yeah, you probably remember me when I was bouncing around as a, I won't admit it, how old I was then, but great to have you from our neck of the woods, and thank you both for traveling down. I look forward to seeing you this summer, and thank you for all the great work you guys do.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
With that, we are going to jump into Senate Joint Resolution 3 and welcome up Senator Nethercott and any co-sponsors. If you want to hop down there and flank her, that'd be great. If not, welcome to House TRW.
Good morning, House TRW, or afternoon now. My first observation is there's so many of you, in the House meeting. Been presenting all the bills in Senate committees, it's a lot tighter. So good to see you. You have, I think, a really important but a feel-good bill for you here this afternoon, commemorating Nellie Taylor Ross. Wyoming is currently experiencing the 100-year anniversary of her election to the governorship, which is the first female governor elected in these United States. So I hope that you can appreciate and acknowledge that significance that Wyoming has in our country's history with that, regardless of any politics or any other issues, but really just celebrating another one of Wyoming's incredible firsts that we did and continue to do. So, good representatives, this is a joint resolution, which is really just an official statement. We're not turning anything into law here, as you know. But again, just acknowledging the significance of the 100-year anniversary. And there's a bio of her throughout the resolution to kind of understand who she was during that time. So she was born in Missouri, moved to Wyoming because she made the excellent decision of marrying a lawyer who had political ambitions, always a good combination. She was described as gracious and funny and all of those things, and she was a strong confidant to her husband, William Ross, who was elected governor, and he passed away in office. And so, as I think many of us may know or have heard, there's somewhat of a sadness to this, in that her husband was governor, he passed away, and then she was somehow anointed into the governorship. That is just not true, and I think it's part of this misinformation that plagues Wyoming's history when it comes to women's first. And so going through really on page 2, I think it's important to recognize that when he died, the state party chairman went to Nellie and said, "We'd like you to run for office. We'd like you to be the candidate." Why? Because we've seen you in action as his right there, understanding all these political issues, and we think you're the person to step forward. And despite misgivings from her friends and family that said, "We don't think you should do it," she did it anyway. That's when she really became a Wyoming woman at that point. And she said, "I'm going to do this. I'm going to do what's right. I'm going to take this leap of faith." And so she ran for office, and she was elected into the office by a 10% margin. And so that, good representatives, is the story I'd like to tell here. She was defeated in her next election, but shortly thereafter, she was appointed as the first female director of the United States Mint, a position that she held for 20 years, from 1933 to 1953. So if you can just imagine all the things that she saw during that time, in the 30s, 40s, and then 50s, right, as a female director of a huge agency, a huge federal agency. So I think an incredible legacy that we can all be proud of. And again, this just commemorates that wonderful Wyoming history we have and helps make sure that the accuracy of that historical history remains current and something we can continue to pass forward and name our children after. Thank you, good Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Nethercott. Appreciate that. Committee, any questions of the good bringer?
Mr. Chairman,
Vice Chair Hirschman.
and Mr. Chairman and Senator Nethercott, thank you for bringing this bill. I think, of course, it was a special election and we used to have all offices had special elections. Now we only have two. The U.S. representative and the governor are still under that. Somehow we went to an appointment process with the rest of us. But I just want, my question really, okay, this is a white bill. It's not been amended, members of the House, so this is a perfect Senate file. And, but I just want to make sure this history is right on this. On page 2, lines 8 through 10. And here's how I remembered, is that he really died in the middle of his term. And then she ran for a special election and finished his term. And I think, I don't know if we want to amend it here, but he died a month before the election, but I think that would have been his off year, I think. And then she ran in that election, but it was a special election for governor, because I think he was elected in 22, I think, but I don't know. Anybody else got a comment on? I just want to make sure we get it 100% right.
Mr. Chairman?
Senator Nethercott.
Thank you. I think that history is there. So if we could go back on we're on page 2, still line 1. So she was elected in 1922, that same year. And then if you look down below, he died in office, she was appointed in October, and then that special election occurred in November, so it happened very quickly. So I don't recall off the top of my head what year he died, but I think it's there, and I think all of that precipitated very rapidly. If the committee is interested, after consulting with accurate historical information, to providing an amendment, providing further clarity, that certainly is welcome, not trying to
No, I know, I just want to get it right. I'm
discourage
like
that,
Mr.
but
Chairman.
I don't want to get it wrong either. So we can consult the history books and maybe evaluate that more carefully.
Appreciate that, Vice Chair
Okay, thank
Hirschman. Thank you, Senator Nethercott. Committee, any other questions? Representative Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Senator, for bringing this very important awareness. So I see on page 4, line 8, so we will commemorate the 100th year on January 5th, or did on January 5th, right? Will there be, additional events or celebrations to mark this every year?
Senator Nethercott.
Mr. Chairman, through you, Representative, only the ones that we have for ourselves. We can celebrate every day, but no, there was a proclamation issued by the governor on January 5th, and just a commemoration. I think that reality does speak to kind of Wyoming's culture, where we maybe don't celebrate ourselves as much as we should, and how some of these wonderful stories get mislabeled over time, or have maybe inaccurate or misinformation associated with them because of our resistance to celebrate these events. So maybe moving forward, we can have more celebrations. I certainly think that'd be good for all.
Thank you, Senator Nethercott. I concur. Committee, any other questions of the bringer? Vice Chair Hirschman.
Mr. Chairman, again, I just really commend you for bringing this, and I think what you just said is so important, because it's so important to remember and honor this history. Wyoming's history is just incredible in the world. And we were so far out in front of everybody, and so I really appreciate you bringing this, because it's so important. Thank you. Don't you agree? That's a question.
Committee, any other questions for the good bringer? All right, thank you, Senator Nethercott, we certainly appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman, I hope we all feel good with this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Any agency, other electeds in the room that want to testify? Okay, seeing none. Any public comment in the room? None online on this? All right, well, we're gonna go ahead and close public comment. And committee, what is your pleasure? Been moved by Representative Worf, seconded by Representative Campbell. Discussions on the bill. I do agree with Representative Harshman, and I can work on that with him. With he is a history buff, as we know, but I do not challenge the good bringer, but it's a very important piece of legislation here, and I really would like to hammer it home, just confirm we got it right. So Representative Connolly.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I would just like to say this is the best bill I've seen since I've been here.
Thank you, Representative Connolly. Representative Provenza.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And in addition to being the best bill, it's in front of the best committee, which is majority women.
Thank you, Representative Provenza.
Don't disagree.
I do not disagree with that at all, nor would it be the proper place for me to do that because I think that door's locked. And I'm not that fast. Yeah, committee, I will comment on Senator Nethercott. You know, my daughter was here on Friday, and she is named after Nellie Taylor Ross. So anyway, pretty special for me. And I did give the good bringer a hard time, but then I realized her strategy as to the co-sponsors, so I kept my mouth shut after that. Any other comments, committee? Representative Worf.
I'm just gonna say, Mr. Chairman, as a non-native of Wyoming, I can tell you, this is amazing for me as somebody that moved here in 2000. And I can tell you, it's amazing to hear the history of what this state did, and how they did it. And I am proud to say I'm a part of Wyoming. I wish my family would have stopped here rather than going on, because I love it here.
Thank you, Representative Worf. We welcome you 25 years later.
Call for the question.
Question being called. This will be a roll call vote.
Mr. Chairman, this is a roll call vote for Senate Joint Resolution 3. Representative Campbell.
Can I say, heck yeah?
Representative Connolly.
Aye.
Representative Harshman.
Aye.
Representative Jarvis.
Aye.
Representative Provenza.
Aye.
Representative Storer.
Aye.
Representative Thayer.
Aye.
Representative Worf.
Aye.
Chairman Byron.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, there are 9 ayes.
Thank you. And committee, we can talk about who wants to carry that one on the floor. We have a number of co-sponsors on this committee, so please strategize on that. With that, thank you, Senator Nethercott, for your time. We are going to move on now, committee, to our next bill. Senate File 42, and we're going to invite the good Senator One Wing Guru up here to explain the bill. And it's typical speed of a senator. Thank you, Representative or Senator Gru. Thank you. Welcome to House TRW. Folks, we are on Senate File 42. Please.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for taking time today. Appreciate you being here for me. Interrupting senatorial nap time at all. But we'll try to get back to it. Today, I bring to you not the best bill that you'll ever see, but hopefully it'll be in the top 2 today. Senate File 42, resort hotel liquor licenses. This bill is kind of interesting background, or maybe not, but starts like a lot of bills do. Call from a constituent who had a problem, and a couple of years ago, and this bill kind of came out of that, and I brought it in a budget session knowing that it probably wouldn't get the 2/3 majority to get introduced. I kind of trolled it around, help out the constituent, have the bill die, and go back home and say I did my best. Give it another try some other time. Something happened on the way. Started hearing from folks, my fellow senators, we said, boy, this should have some applicability in our town. That this, 100 rooms for a resort liquor license is way too big for us. So we just don't get that kind of investment, but at 35, or as it was amended down to 20, might fit us pretty well for economic development. So actually, it just missed introduction by 1 vote in the Senate last year. So we brought it back and we've worked it, and it passed out of the Senate a few weeks ago, and here we are today. So basically, it's grown from a bill for a constituent into now what I think is something that, as a former member of this committee, and something that we used to talk about a lot when I was here, was about tourism, the new tourism economy, how we can help smaller communities that we don't normally think about in that space before, but now each have their own tourism marketing operations in each of their counties and are trying to actively promote some of the great things that we all know are all around the state of Wyoming. And the community where I live up in Jackson, it actually doesn't have that much applicability anymore. It does to one constituent, but it has farther applicability around the state. And so that's what's led us here. And so the bill, as it sits, and I didn't bring an engrossed copy, and I apologize, but I've got the amendments right here, and so I think I can walk through. But basically, it just allows for a smaller entity, in this case, anywhere from 20 rooms and above, with a $5 million investment or above, to be able to obtain what is known as a resort liquor license. Now, a resort liquor license, of course, as you all sure you know, is different in its own way. It sells packaged liquor, but can only be consumed on site. So folks can't buy liquor there at the site and then, thank you, and then come and then take it off property. That's a key. And there's another key that I'll talk about with my friends in the liquor dealers, and they're good representatives here to speak to this. But the bottom line is to be able to have, if you have a restaurant, a full operating restaurant, it's open regular hours, that can be altered by the licensing authority, not just the owner saying, man, I don't want to open today. Also have some meeting facilities for up to 50 people, and also have other resort amenities that are talked about, and that's where it gets to the $5 million investment. So once again, it's a fairly simple bill, and it just allows economic development and further growth in our economy, in this tourism economy, to allow for maybe a remodel of a older property that's seen better days, like one I stayed in Grable a while back. They love this bill because right now they're serving banana bread in the coffee room in the morning. They'd like to maybe expand that a little bit and get more, get their room rate up and have more amenities, and so this is geared towards them and all others around the state. And so I can walk through it if you like, Mr. Chairman, but I think you all are pretty familiar with this, so you've had it a little bit. If you have questions, I'm more than happy to answer them at this time.
Thank you, Senator Guru. Appreciate that. Representative Campbell.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, thank you for bringing this. Imagine, yeah, it will help a lot of folks in a lot of counties. Just a couple of questions for you to clarify. On page 4, so line 18, this will be one of the exceptions, as all of our other liquor licenses tend to be allocated based on population. So this would be exempt from that, correct? So how do we figure the number of licenses? That's question number 1.
Senator Guru.
Mr. Chairman, Representative, good question. Right now, there are 42 resort liquor license holders in the state with the current regulations, which is 100 rooms, and then all the other things that you see in this bill. So we're just changing that room count. And no, it does not it's not in any population count. So that is the essence of the resort license.
Thank you, Senator Guru. Do you have a follow-up, Representative Campbell? Follow-up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Also want to make sure, just to understand how this would work on page 7, so line 1, that they also may acquire a microbrewery permit So how that might work, and then if you would just explain, yeah, how they might have both and what that means for the other licensing.
Senator Grew.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative, I don't think that's what the intent is here. In this section, they're just bringing through the regulations that apply to winery permits, microbrewery permits, and all the rest of the permits that are kind of in this class.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Representative Campbell. Any other question? Representative Wharf, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I hate to expose my ignorance on this, but I don't know the regulation process, but is there anything that, does that require them to go through cities and counties? I'm assuming that there's some type of, local input on whether or not they expand the microbreweries or the resort hotels.
Mr. Vice Chair, thank you. Good question, Representative Ward. The licensing authority is either the town or the county, depending, of course, where the license is held. So it's just like that process you go through. You pay your fee, and you have, they're the only ones who can, for example, if you're, and this is looked at in some seasonal communities, like say, look, you're not going to be open 365 days a year. You'll take the spring and the fall off. But that is determined when you go in for your license, and the license authority sets that. It's not there that will give you a range. So that local control is there. And if there are violations, you come up for renewal, and between the Liquor Commission and the licensing authority. So just like a regular license in that respect. Does that help you?
Yeah, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, Senator Guru, because I wasn't sure if we're talking about the licensing authority, if that was the cities and counties or whatever, but I appreciate you explaining that for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative
Mr.
Wharf.
Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Grew. Co-Chair Harshman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Been a lot of expansion and work, obviously, and supported that, most of that, but really where is the definition of resort hotel? As I read this, it's any hotel can sell an unopened bottle of liquor or wine to a registered guest.
Mr. Chairman?
Senator Grew.
Yes, I think the key operative point here is the $5 million investment. You can't just walk in and grab one of these off the street. You're gonna have to provide, and the licensing authority can decide, what that $5 million investment is. And that was moved down. In the original bill, it was 10. And it was felt that and we got some feedback, mostly from folks in those smaller towns, that they felt that was a limiting factor that might blow out some opportunities. Like I say, for those folks who are taking that small, older motel on the edge of town that we all see and like so much, and really, jazz it up and make it something more for today's traveler. There are all types of products and all types of ranges for folks that are traveling in the summer with families or whatever. This is aimed at kind of that more, little higher price, a little more niche place for people to come and stay. So they felt a $5 million investment was the key for them to get away from just saying, hey, anybody can just grab one of these and go.
Vice Chair Harshman, please.
Last question, Mr. Chairman. And so how many hotels then will qualify statewide? I mean, you probably got the numbers on that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Grew.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Vice Chairman, I'm not sure exactly how many, I don't know. I'll look backwards and see someone may have that information, exactly how many would qualify. There's a question, there are a lot of hotel units, motel units of 20 units or more around the state. How many are going to put in the 5 million? That'll be the deciding factor on that answer.
Representative Thayer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator, so when you guys talked about, you brought the 10 million down to 5 million, did you guys tweak the 20 sleeping rooms number at all? Has that been discussed?
Thank you,
Mr.
Representative.
Chairman.
Senator Grew.
Representative, yes, it was 35. That was the original bill. And it's been amended down to 20. And that's something of a little bit, we're trying to, to get the support of liquor dealers, folks in the lodging industry. They wanted someone, and the folks in the cities and towns were kind of at different points on that. And so I thought 35 was the sweet spot. The kind of consensus on the Senate side was that 20 was that number. And so I think going below that, I think it would have so you might run into a lot of small towns into the $5 million problem then with less than 20 rooms. But that's something for them to figure out, I guess.
Chairman, thank you. And I think that boutique niche, there's a lot of small motor inns that are really, I mean, this is a great tool for economic and community development, so thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Senator.
Yes, I think it is. Like I say, we're spending money right now around the state to promote, outdoor recreation. We have a trust fund for that, you all, help create. Those types of things, and all the other great events, great things that tourism bureaus around the state are creating, I think just play right into this.
Thank you, Senator. Committee, further question? Representative Jarvis.
Thank you, Committee Chair. I guess the only question I have was, and it's already in the bill, but why was it extended to the catering permit? Added into that section, and that's on page 5. It starts line 8 through line 17. And it was giving resort hotel liquor license or licensees. It was encompassing the ability for them to also.
Senator,
Mr. Chairman,
please.
Representative Jarvis, what that's about, I think the best way to explain it is, and this goes back to Representative Harshman's question, what is a resort? A meeting space, the vision here is a meeting space, let me back up. A restaurant liquor license has, and most other liquor license classes have a defined dispensing room and dispensing area. The resort license contemplates having a meeting room like this one where we could have an event, but also maybe have an event outdoors, a wedding, a family get-together. And so having to be able to dispense alcohol out on that property, out on the property in other venues around and not be necessarily tied to a dispensing room. And so that's kind of where that's contemplated.
Thank you, Senator. Representative Connolly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick question. So on the fees, is that the same kind of fee that the other licenses have? I know some are like 1,500, or do the counties decide they make up their own fee? Can you talk to that for me, please?
Senator.
Mr. Chairman, thank you, Representative Connolly. Yes, the local licensing authority can set those. And so, depending on what they want to do, where they feel that, they need to be, they can set that and give that local control.
Thank you, Senator. Committee, any other questions? Any other questions on the Senate file of the Good Bringer? Seeing no other questions, stay close, Senator Guru. Let's go ahead and open up to agency, please. Other electeds in here that want to comment on it? Not seeing any. Let's go to agency. And then if you plan to make public comment on this bill, please come on up and fill in these chairs and we'll keep the ball rolling so we can get to our final bill. Please introduce yourself to the good committee and welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Tom Montoya. I'm the administrator of the Wyoming Department of Revenue Liquor Division. I had a handout, but with your permission, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to answer a couple of questions.
Please.
Representative Jarvis, you asked about the catering permit. The two licenses current in law today are the resort liquor license and the full retail liquor license that allows for a catering permit. Biggest reason, and Senator Grew had explained it pretty well, the biggest reason that they would use it for is like maybe a fundraiser. But because the resort liquor license does not allow for package, oftentimes these fundraisers, they'll get a catering permit for whatever room or outside, wherever they're gonna have this function. And with the catering permit, it allows for like auctions, whether it's a silent auction or regular auction, so that if people will buy alcohol, the liquor brokers in the state of Wyoming, the wine reps and spirits reps, beer folks, they're very good at making donations. And so, there's a huge event here in Cheyenne every year for one of the the Catholic school here. And they donate an enormous amount of wine and spirits to this event. The catering permit will allow them to take it off premise. So that's the biggest reason for that. You don't see an enormous amount of catering, and you can ask Mr. Mosier, a lot of it has to do with more insurance reasons than anything. Representative Campbell, you asked on page 4 about the resort liquor license, no application. What that simply means is that if this were to pass, it would not affect the population formula for full retail liquor licenses. That's really what that is saying. And also, another question about microbreweries and wineries. Current law allows for microbreweries and wineries to be held in conjunction with the full retail liquor license, bar and grill liquor license, resort liquor license, restaurant liquor license. And if you hold it in conjunction, you only have to pay for one of those licenses, the resort, retail, whichever you hold. And you can operate both businesses. The legislature allowed that. Microbreweries, wineries came and asked if that could happen to help their businesses. If they were just microbrewery, they wanted to have a brew pub as well, that helped them with that. So that's the reason for that. I'm here because I brought this census report that the Wyoming Liquor Division does on a monthly. And I know there's a lot of new members here. I know that Representative Harshman has seen it a few times. But really what this is this just tells all the liquor licenses that are issued in the state of Wyoming. And it's done on population formula for 2 of the licenses, the full retail license and the bar and grill liquor licenses. We do it on the 10-year census. Once the Department of Administration and Information gets the information from the U.S. Census Bureau, they send it to us, and then we look at all the population formulas and adjust the numbers. And yes, we will take licenses away, but we don't close down a bar or a restaurant or anything like that. What we do is just the town will be over allocated. So if you look at this, I'm just going to give an example. The city of Laramie is on that top line. Their population in 2020 was 31,407. The population formula and statute allowed for 27 retail liquor licenses. All 27 are issued, so there's none available. Restaurant liquor licenses, there's no longer a population formula for that. That was filled in 2015, so the legislature did away with the population formula, so those are unlimited. Bar and grill liquor licenses, their population formula allows for 14. They've got 11 issued, they got 3 available. And on down the line shows limited licenses. Those are like fraternal clubs, veterans clubs, golf clubs, that type of thing. And then the resort licenses, this is the current resort licenses with the higher qualifications, the 100 rooms and $1 million valuation or $10 million ski type of thing. And with that, that's this. And on page 4, if you look, it will total the state. So all of the retail licenses, there's 955 authorized in the state of Wyoming. 803 of those are issued. If you look, Laramie County has like 56 that are available out in the county because nobody out there for those licenses. So other counties would love to have those licenses, but that's the way it works. With that, Mr. Chairman, that's.
Thank you, Mr. Montoya. Committee, any questions? Representative Provenza, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Montoya, I'm going to ask you a technical question, and I'm hoping you can answer it. The definition that I found for resort retail liquor licenses in 12.4.401, and that's under B. And I think in this bill, it's defined in 416. And so I'm just, because I'm looking here, that's where they have in 401B, it talks about the number of ruminant 2, it has the 100 person. So I'm just curious if you have any clarification on this in terms of the difference in where in our statute book this lives and in this bill.
Mr. Montoya?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Provenza, what defines a resort liquor license, and this particular in the hotel resort liquor license, is really the qualifiers that you'll see in there. You know, in a resort liquor license, you have to have 100 sleeping rooms. You've got to have the convention facility that will seat no less than 100 people. You have to have the $1 million valuation minus the land on the resort license, or the $10 million ski facility. That's really what defines the resort license. In the proposed for the hotel, same thing. It's just kind of a smaller version. You know, it's the 20 rooms and $5 million valuation, convention facility for 50 people. That's really how it's defined.
Thank you, Mr. Montoya. Representative Provenza?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So having it as 416, having it as a new, I guess, statute makes sense then, and not amending that other statute.
Mr. Montoya?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Provenza, yes, the hotel resort liquor license is a new type of license. It's not a resort license. You can think one's a big one, one's a little one, but they're two separate licenses.
Thank you. Thank you, Representative Provenza, for that question, and really good to clear that up and dive into that green book. That's great. Representative Storr?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Montoya. I just want to make sure, I think I follow this. This is for smaller hotels that would not qualify for the resort liquor license, but it would also allow for package sales for off premises. Are those the main differences that this license allows for?
Mr. Montoya?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Storr, this does not allow for package in the general sense of package. So somebody couldn't go to the bar, buy a case of beer and go fishing.
Okay.
That's package. What they could do is they could go to the bar and they could buy a bottle of wine or 12-pack of beer, or whatever it is they want, and they could go to their room, or they can drink it on anywhere within the premises, but they cannot leave the premises. That's the difference. So, and that's the same for the resort license, so it would work the same way for this one.
Thank you, Mr. Montoya. Any other questions? Thank you. Thank you. Don't go farther. Could be more. Public comment. If you are here to speak in favor, please come on, or opposed, or any of the above. And we do have a few online. We'll get to the online folks as soon as we get through the in-the-room folks. So please, not all of us know the two of you, so when you go to speak, please introduce yourself and tell us who you're representing. Welcome to House TRW.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Mike Mosier, Wyoming State Liquor Association. When you asked those in support, well, kind of, maybe up and down the road, we oppose parts of this bill, and the concern is, and I'll go through this real quick, there is no food provision for the restaurant, and I'll get into that a little bit. That's actually Mr. Montoya and my fault, because we used to have a definition of full-service restaurant, and we removed it because it wasn't needed. The 20 rooms that came up, you don't want Airbnb getting a liquor license. And so 20 rooms is a pretty low floor by our taste. We'd rather had it at 35, and the $5 million valuation, once again, in some communities is pretty high, but if you're in the northwestern corner of the state, I think that's a single wide trailer house. And so 5 million is kind of a good in between, but the problem is we don't want to make the bar so low that we have bars all over the place, which gets us into the food thing. There's very little food requirement in this bill. As the bill is written, it refers back to the restaurant definition, which I'll get into, we changed. But right now, the food requirement could be microwavable lasagna or a tombstone, for those of you old enough to remember, a tombstone toaster oven. And so that is not the goal of the bill. I've met with the Good Bill sponsor, and so we have a way around that. Just as some history, it was 1967 when the resort license was first developed. The $1 million, ironically, is worth about $9.5 million in today's dollars. The threshold has always been pretty high. It is unlimited in issuance, as this would be, similar to a restaurant, limited retail, et cetera. If I may, Mr. Chairman, address an amendment you have in front of you.
Please.
Thank you. The amendment to us fixes this, because what happened, just as quick history, Mr. Montoya and I worked together since God's dog was a pup. And about 10, 12 years ago, we decided to simplify, streamline, and modernize Title 12. I think Representative Harshman will remember those days. We had 2 omnibus bills that I don't remember how many pages, but probably a gazillion, where Tom and I got our crayons and we went through Title 12 and we said, we don't need this one, we need this, we can rearrange this. And so we just went crazy with stuff. First one was in 2017, last one was in 2021. Wyoming statute did have a definition of full-service restaurant. Well, the licenses that food service is dependent on, restaurant, bar, and grill, they have to do 60% food. So you don't have to worry about a definition of food because you know they're serving more than microwavable pizza because they have to meet a 60% threshold. So we removed it. Well, we need it back for this type of license because there is no 60-40 split, and you want to ensure that you're doing a little more for your resort than a Tombstone Pizza. And so the amendment you have in front of you, and it was done with the blessing of the good bill sponsor, which I would do nothing without the blessing of a good bill sponsor, basically takes the language we removed in 2021, simplifies it a little bit, and just sticks it back in. It just applies to this type of license, but we feel it's important to keep in the direction that we want to go with the resort liquor license, to have this language to avoid the prospect of a Roach Motel up in the northwestern corner of the state just opening up its own bar with a toaster oven. And so we feel this nails it down. I think you'll see widespread support for this amendment. Until about 2006, there's a certain organization in the state, WHAM, and we used to kick the snot out of each other every year over liquor licenses. And then in 2006, we had 2 separate bills in the Corporations Committee. One they supported, we hated. One we liked and they hated. And the chairman of the House Corporations Committee during the committee meeting, if I can mention his name, Chairman Illoway, looked at Tom and I and said, I want you two to come up with a solution. And so Mr. Montoya and I met. The draft of that bill was written on a bar napkin, as many good bills are, and it became the Bar and Grill liquor license. Since then, my friends at WHAM and with the lodging people, the tourism people, we've all managed to reach consensus, and we've changed a lot of things. In fact, new licenses are going to be issued in 2025 because of the census estimate. And in 2028, we actually worked on a bill to make more bar and grills ahead of time. And so we've always worked together with those. We took the cap off restaurant liquor licenses. Unfortunately, we've always taken care of this before crossover, and we have not done this. But this amendment to us is so important because it actually nails down the part we have a concern about, and that's unrestricted bars. If you look at the negative impact of liquor licensees on our community, whether drunk driving fatalities or economic development, it's bars and packaged liquor stores. Nobody's pointing fingers at restaurants. So if you have full restaurant facilities, sure. But on the other hand, like I said, we want to avoid the Tombstone Pizza oven. So we would be okay with this bill. We ask that you accept this amendment because to us, it kind of fulfills the goal of what this license is about. And I hope I didn't miss anything, but if I did, I will take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Mosier. Committee, any questions? Pretty clear there. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'm Bob McLaurin with WHAM. WHAM's a 501c6 private nonprofit that has been in existence since 1928, and we support the cities and towns in the state. We like this bill. We work with Mr. Mosier and the sponsor on the amendment, so it's going to help some of our smaller communities around the state. So we're very supportive of it.
Thank
Happy to answer
you.
any questions.
Committee, any questions of Mr. McLaurin? Questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing none. Anyone else in the room? In the room, last call. Okay, we're gonna hop to Zoom. Tanner, we have, you can let them in as they come, and if we want to stick to order, it looks like Kim Pexton is first. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Mr. Chairman, we just have JD online.
Just JD Cox. All right, go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us who you're representing, and well, we might have all 3 of them.
You do.
We have all three of us here, Mr. Chairman, if we could maybe start with our mayor, Kim Paxton, if that's okay?
Yep, sounds great. Carry on.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. My name is Kim Paxton. I'm the mayor of Douglas. To be honest with you, when we first saw this original bill, it really wasn't going to do much for Douglas. But then as we came down and spoke to the good senator from Teton County and asked him to make a few changes, this bill really could have a huge impact on Douglas and the people that are currently in business here, but also who may in the future be building here. So we do support the amendments. We support the bill. I'm going to keep it short just because there's two more of us, but I would entertain any questions.
Thank you, Mayor, for joining us today. It's kind of you guys to all get on one Zoom. Committee, any questions? Thank you so much. Appreciate that testimony. If we want to rotate through to the next person in your room. Excellent. Introduce yourself. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm Councilman Ron McNair. And one of the questions that we have is, does the restaurant actually need to be connected to the resort? Or can it be a building next to the resort?
Mr. McNair, it has to be on, I would say on the property, on the premise. Yep. So I would, yeah, if there's a divider line or a boundary issue, I would say that probably doesn't look good, but I'm simply a chairman, not a lawyer. So I think that on the premise, on the property is where that's defined.
Okay, thank you. And we do support the bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McNair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is JD Cox. I'm the city manager of the city of Douglas. It's a pleasure to be in front of you all. We in Douglas, you may have heard our name around the Capitol recently. We are really trying hard to activate outdoor recreation and tourism here in Douglas. And so we're trying to tear down or attempting to try to tear down as many obstacles to that as we possibly can. We think we have great potential. One of those is our liquor licensing that we have available here in our community. Currently, we have 14 retail liquor licenses that are available. We have all 14 that have been issued, and we have people wishing to have retail liquor licenses. Unfortunately, the rate structure that's currently set up, they're not really incentivized, or we don't have the capability of incentivizing folks that are on one type of license to move to another. The money just doesn't work out the way the state structure has it set up. So adding another, category of liquor licenses such as the resort provides at least one of ours we think will qualify, possibly even two down the road. Would be a tremendous help to us. So we, as the mayor and council member McNair said a moment ago, we do strongly support this measure. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Cox, for testifying today. Thank you for all the work you're doing up there to bring tourism to your area and support outdoor recreation. We certainly appreciate it. I hope you're a little bit north of us. I hope you're staying warm with that cold air coming down. But thank you so much, all three of you, for testifying today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
With that, and seeing no one else in the room, no one else online, we're going to go ahead and close public comment. Committee, what is your pleasure on Senate File 42? Representative Harshman has moved the bill. It has been seconded by Representative Campbell. All right, Representative Harshman, please.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, I think ask a good sponsor to specifically answer that question that the councilman from Douglas brought up about, is it the same building, attached building, or on the same property?
Or anyone else in the room that may want to answer that.
And I think it says it, I think it says it on the bottom of page 7. Existing statute on location regulation.
Mr. Montoya?
Mr. Chairman, Tom Montoya with Wyoming Liquor Division. As long as it's on the premises, it does not have to be attached. Same thing with the resort liquor license, and everything that the information we give, we run by the Attorney General's office first and get a legal opinion before we do anything. So as long as it's within the premise.
I think, Mr. Chairman, that's on the bottom, that's on 12-5201, page 7 and 8, I think spells it out. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Harshman. And we did grab a green book, and it is it's specified in 12-1-101, pretty far down in the Romanet. But Thank you for that, Mr. Montoya. Thank you, Vice Chair Harshman. Committee, any other questions, or we want to start working this already worked bill? Page 1, anything?
Move the bill.
It's been moved and
did.
seconded.
Oh,
Yep.
I was-
Well, we'll get there. Page 1. Anything? Okay, page 2, where this amendment comes in, Representative Campbell.
No.
I'm curious about how the committee would feel about, yeah, because there's been discussion around that 20 sleeping rooms on line 20, and the kind of bed and breakfast, how we would feel about making that 25 or 30 rooms. Too high? So it's just kind of a question.
Thank you for that question. Anything else on page 2? We do have a proposed amendment.
Mr. Chairman,
Representative Thayer.
making the proposed amendment to insert on line 16 and 17, the definition of a full-service restaurant.
Okay, you've heard the motion. Do we have a second? Seconded by Representative Provenza. Connolly, sorry. A bunch of seconds over there. Any questions on that amendment as presented? Okay, sensing yours to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, no. That amendment carries. Thank you for that. Carrying on, page 3. Page 4. I don't want to go too quick. Page 5. 6 or 7. Committee, any other amendments on Senate File 42? Question being called by Representative Harshman. This will be a roll call vote.
Mr. Chairman, this is a roll call vote for Senate File 42, engrossed as amended. Representative Campbell.
Aye.
Representative Connolly.
Aye.
Representative Harshman. Representative Jarvis.
Aye.
Representative Provenza.
Aye.
Representative Storer.
Aye.
Representative Thayer.
Aye.
Representative Worf.
Aye.
Chairman Byron.
Aye.
Chairman, there are 9 aye.
Thank you, and we will, a couple co-sponsors, when you see Representative Wiley, please inform him. He will be carrying that one on the floor with your good help. Senator Drew, thank you for joining House TRW today. Thank you for the good work. Okay, we're going to move on to Senate File 149, and about an hour ago, I realized that the good sponsor of this is absent today, and the co-sponsor on our side is in committee, so I am going to present Senate File 149. Folks, as I read through this and familiarized myself with it late yesterday and this morning, really it's an agreement, I've been told, between our State Department and our county treasurers to streamline this process. And the idea being, I think it's worth, and I certainly would welcome Representative Provenza or Vice Chair Harshman's comments on this, but we have two kind of license plates. We have one that I have as volunteer firefighter, which simply says I'm a volunteer firefighter and does not support any specific cause. And then we have a second, and if you read through the statute we did the other day when we were talking about search and rescue plates, there are some that allow for fundraising for these different entities. So this being the second of the two, and this just streamlines it with the hope of making it easier on both our State Department and our treasurers, and it was agreed upon per a quick conversation with Representative Brown that this is asked for and agreed upon by both of them, and certainly a way to get more of these plates out there and ultimately more funding for our conservation. So with that, that is the bill. It's you can see there's a couple red lines and conforming. Any questions? Representative Provenza, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say it's a great embarrassment that I don't have a conservation plate, but it's literally because I can't do it at my courthouse. So looking forward to this.
Awesome. Thank you, Representative Provenza. Thought that was going to turn into an animal
Yeah.
comment. Somehow, she'll get there. Any other questions? Thank you. No. I teed it up, but didn't allow you. Committee, any other? Yeah, and I'm sure the good senator would like to be here to present this, but thank you. That really sums up the bill, Representative Provenza, so thank you for doing that. Committee, any other questions, Representative Thayer?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So just a little bit of clarity on the fees collected. So a portion of this will go to the wildlife conservation. Is there enough? I don't see, am I missing the percentage? I mean, are the county treasurers going to be getting, with this additional task? I mean,
I'm not sure they're here to answer that, but I can take a stab at it. I think it was asked by them just to make it easier. So when folks come in and, like Representative Provenza just said, and ask for it, they then have to send you to the state instead. And I, like I said, I don't see anyone representing them, but I do think that it's just a normal issuance of plates. They issue a lot of these. And yeah, I think that I have not heard anything negative, but if we do have testimony or we hear from them, I'd be happy to discuss that with them and work it if it needs to be changed.
thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Storr.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, the current process is you have to renew every year, and you have to kind of get a note from, you have to pay to the state the $50. Then once you get that, then you have a piece of paper, and I think then you go to the county. So it's just a little bit cumbersome. It works, but this would make it easier because a lot of people do walk in and say, hey, I'd like one of those wildlife conservation plates. And
Thank you,
Right.
Representative Storr.
and they advertise them, at the clerk's, or the treasurer, excuse me. But yeah, so I think as long as the county feels comfortable taking it on, I think it's a good
Thank you.
idea.
Okay, no questions of me, the bringer. We can go ahead and open this up for public comment. From the department, man. Please introduce yourself. Probably surprised you're in front of TRW, but we welcome you anytime.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Taylor Rossetti, Deputy Director of WYDOT. And you're right, this was asked by a lot of constituents, and a member of our Transportation Commission has been very supportive of this. 2018, this body created this plate. At that time, it was created as a specialty plate like all other plates. And it did have a provision in that statute that required us to sell at least 1,000 sets of plates during that plate cycle. It did do that, so this plate will now remain and will exist in perpetuity. So far, about 3,000 plates total have been sold, as described very well by you, Mr. Chairman, and by Representative Storr. The language in the bill as drafted was a bit cumbersome. It required an application to the department, which then gave an eligibility certificate, which then shipped the plate to the county, which created a problem if you wanted to get this plate today, as Representative Provenza mentioned. We do believe that this creates an efficiency there. Two things that'll do. One, if somebody like Representative Provenza sees the plate and is like, hey, I like that plate, they can buy it, whereas in the past they'd have to wait for it. Also, we did through an agreement with the treasurers previously, even on the renewals, they were starting to take that at the counter on renewals, but they couldn't issue the plate. So this does absolutely create the efficiency where you can do that now at the counter. This is also an area where people can voluntarily donate additional dollars when they do these registrations. And also, I'll point out, if you guys look there on page 3, lines 9 through 12, those are all of the other additional places where people can actually donate to this fund. And these funds are allocated separately into the highway account, and they are used only for wildlife crossings. We work very closely with Wyoming Game and Fish before we do those things, and we even work with Mr. Budd on some projects as well. So far in fiscal year 25, just so you guys have an idea, $113,550 have been collected just on the plate issuance, which is that initial $150 on a first issue. There's also a $30 specialty plate fee that comes to the highway department. That's only collected once every 8 years. Annually, then a person will pay a $50 fee to keep this plate. All of that money goes into the conservation account. In addition, though, to the plate fees, $92,191.39 in donations have been collected. So you can see that almost anyone who's buying one of these is also providing an additional donation. It is just a nice way to get that, and people have a high affinity for these things. So with that, I'd certainly answer any questions you may have, sir.
Thank you, Deputy Director. Thank you for joining us today, Representative Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Love efficiency, makes my life happy. So will the intent then to just have a certain number of these plates that are, I guess, shipped out and on hand at every county clerk? They'll just have a supply?
Please.
Mr. Chairman and Representative Campbell, as with most license plates, we have received high demand to allow people to keep as many of the low-numbered plates as possible. So people who have been issued up to, I believe, 2,300, we are going to hold those back for the first issuance year, and they will apply directly to us, and we'll send those to the counties. But the intent of this is to work with the counties to see how much inventory they think that they would need on hand and have a supply there at the counter, so that if you did want to go in, it would just be a little bit higher number, but those would be available on hand.
Thank you for that question. Thank you, Deputy Director. Any other questions? Representative Storr.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Rossetti, for being here. I'm curious what the total amount raised since this was created, and how long ago that was.
Mr. Chairman and Representative Storr, this number is a couple weeks old, but the balance in the account was $2,006,856.40. And that was created in 2018, and it was effective, I believe, in January of 2019 is when plates started being sold.
Thank you. Committee, any other questions? Thank you for joining us. Don't go far. We may have more questions. Public testimony. He's got to get back to class, so let him go soon. Welcome, Department.
Thank you, Chairman Byron. Today, I'm Doug Braymeyer, Deputy Director with the Wyoming Game and Fish Department, and with me I have Nish Goiklia, and she is our Communications and Education Chief with the department. And as you know, this is it's been a very popular plate for, at least for our stakeholders, and since 2019, you'll see them around the state, and our communication folks have been working on outreach with the WYDOT folks, and it's been a great outreach effort, and it's getting more of these on vehicles. And so this bill would ease that issue for folks trying to get that plate. I know my daughter has reached out and got one here recently, and so she had to go through that process, but it is a little bit involved to get it. And we believe it's a great opportunity to provide more wildlife benefits for crossings. And as you know, we've got quite a crossing program in the state of Wyoming, and this would just help further that. And the first plate was a mule deer, and we're just passing around now the next version of that plate. So it's another iconic species for Wyoming, and we're very proud of this plate because if you see our logo on our name tags and on our trucks, it's the pronghorn, and we call it Power of the Pronghorn. So we're glad to have that this year. And if yeah, Nish may have some additional thoughts on this as well. Thanks.
Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Again, I'm Nish Goikolea, and just some other notes on this. You know, we know that there's over 8,000 big game vehicle collisions annually in the state of Wyoming, and that's roughly 21 of them are big game per day. And in 2023 alone, there were 16% of them that were wildlife related. The funds from this conservation plate go directly to overpasses, underpasses, fencing projects, wildlife friendly specifically, and other things. So we see this as really important for us. The plate that you see in front of you, as Mr. Braymeyer said, was done in conjunction with WYDOT, Game and Fish, and other NGOs who came up with the design. And it pays homage, not only, of course, with the pronghorn, but to the 1978 to 1987 fencing that we used to have on the Wyoming plates, if you remember. And so there's a little bit of a throwback there as well. We have a number of current projects that are coming underway. Currently in Wyoming, we have 2 overpasses for wildlife and 58 underpasses. And we have 2 more upcoming projects that we're really proud of, which is the Kemmer project on US 189. And it's also going to do an improvement on Dry Piney and Trappers Point. And then the Du Bois project on US Highway 287, which is the Wind River to the Tetons project. And so these funds will go towards that as well.
Thank you. Any questions of the department? Really appreciate those statistics and the good work that we are doing for that underpass and the overpass and the fencing. Appreciate that. And thanks for the design. That's pretty cool. Anyone else in the room? I wasn't gonna let you get off without it. Welcome back to TRW. Please reintroduce yourself for those online.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name is Colton Schick, and today I'm testifying on behalf of Wyoming Wildlife Federation. I stand in strong support of Senate File 149, which offers a vital opportunity to allow Wyoming residents and outdoorsmen to apply for the wildlife conservation plates at a county level. Providing this opportunity better accommodates locals to donate funding towards wildlife crossings. Now, oftentimes I'm driving around and I see plates on the road, and it's kind of cool. It's something I'm proud of. I look at that plate and I say, man, they're supporting wildlife conservation. And my folks have too as well at our house. It's a really cool opportunity to be like, wow, those guys are doing something good. So being able to more easily access the plates will urge more people to do so, which ultimately will provide more funding. Once again, I urge you to stand in support of this bill. I'd like to thank the co-sponsors and the sponsors. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Schick. Any questions of our high school student? Representative Provenza, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to reiterate my point that I've said before. I hope that you plan to run for office, and thanks you for being here today.
Wouldn't you agree? Okay, any other public comment? Mr. Schwartz. And just for the committee's knowledge, I had 2 people testify today that knew me 38 years ago. So it's been a full circle, and certainly for you.
Thank you,
Wonderful,
Mr. Chairman.
Schwartz.
I wish I could remember 38 years ago. I'm Andy Schwartz. I'm speaking on behalf of myself today, but more importantly, on behalf of former Representative Stan Blake without his permission. I was not a co-sponsor on this bill in 2018 because it was the 4th year in a row that Representative Blake ran a license plate bill. And we had an interesting conversation about that, but I did support it. And I'm sure Representative Harshman was not a sponsor either, but we did both vote for it. And I am sure Representative Blake would be very happy the way this bill is being amended and happy with the success it has had. And I will stand for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Schwartz. Good former representative, any questions of Mr. Schwartz? Thank you for your comments. Okay, no one online? No one else in the room? I'm gonna go ahead and close public comment. Committee, what's your pleasure? The bill has been moved by Representative Provenza, second by Representative Thayer. Any amendments? Do you want to work the bill, or are we good to go?
Good. Only if we can make it effective immediately. My plates are expired. I second that.
Can I have a? Anyone want to call for the question?
Question.
Oh, question being called. This will be a roll call vote on Senate File 149.
Mr. Chairman, this is a roll call vote for Senate File 149. Representative Campbell.
Aye.
Representative Conley.
Aye.
Representative Harshman.
Aye.
Representative Jarvis.
Aye.
Representative Provenza.
Aye.
Representative Storer.
Aye.
Representative Thayer.
Aye.
Representative Wharf.
Aye.
Chairman Byron.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, there are 9 ayes.
Thank you. With that, we are adjourned. Committee 138. We will see everyone on Thursday. Due back upstairs at 2 o'clock. Thank you.